Welcome to Life Picks Relationships, helping you understand and enliven your marriage through the various perspectives and experiences of others who found a way to prioritize what's really important in life. From new love to those that have weathered the storms, let's get ready to take your relationships to the next level with your host, ST.
Hey, Life Picksers! Hope you're having an awesome day and ready for another amazing episode. I mean, who's not gonna like 9 proven steps to make your marriage a success? I'm so excited to get right into this, but before that, I have a question for you. Actually, I want a question from you. I know this is episode just 125, but we're already working on an episode 200. I know, crazy, right? But it's true. Now, because you guys liked episode 100 so much, we are working and doing another episode just like that for episode 200. And we want to answer your questions. So send them in. Go to lifepicksrelationships.com, and on the podcast page, there's a button right there for you to go and send in your questions. You have a question and you deserve an answer. Better yet, if it's from a few relationship experts at the same time. So I'm looking forward for them, and I can't wait for us to get there. And for today's episode, we've got a marriage and family therapist trained in the Gottman method and emotionally focused. Thank you so much, Carole Cullen, for being here. I'm super excited. Guys, if you want to connect with her, go to mytherapistnc.org. I'm going to put her links in the show notes as usual. Now, Carole, you want to start by telling us, what do you think? Obviously, it's different for every couple based on their situation, based on their past, and based on what's happening. But from your experience, what do you think is the greatest challenge in marriage?
I think that in today's society, we get so busy and distracted that we put our relationship as the last thing we attend to in a day. And that creates a disconnection between couples. I think that's the biggest problem, because that disconnection over time builds and builds and builds. And that's where you start to see problems set in a relationship.
So what do you suggest? Like, people plan before, make sure their mornings are together. How do you suggest your clients and people listening to really make sure they put it the first thing? I personally think it should go first, because if your relationship is doing well, it will overflow into all other areas of your life. And if not, the same.
Nothing else. I don't know about you, but if me and my husband in the morning have a rough start in the morning, my whole day is ruined. Like, I can't think about anything else. So if you don't have your relationship in a good space and you and your partner connecting and starting your day off right, it's going to create other areas in your life that have problems. So you want to make sure that your relationship is the number one priority. But like you said, I think in today's society, like, the biggest problem couples have is that they don't do that. They take care of their jobs. They take care of their kids. They take care now of aging parents. And at the end of the day, they're exhausted. And what I hear most is like, we just don't have time. We're just exhausted and we just want to go to sleep. We have nothing left for our partner. The tank is empty. And that's sad. It's true. We all struggle with that, but that's what creates that disconnection in relationships.
So how does one make sure to put that as a priority?
Well, I have 9 tips for you today that we can go through. Do you want to learn about the 9 tips?
I do.
I knew you would want to. Well, I know that you and I have briefly chatted about the Gottman method. And so maybe for all of our listeners and watchers, we can talk about what the Gottman method is. And then we'll set the tone. So John and Julie Gottman, doctors John and Julie Gottman, are researchers and therapists, and they founded the Gottman Institute over 40 years ago. And they have been following, studying, researching couples for more than 40 years to learn what makes a relationship work. And they came up with what's called the Sound Relationship House. And it is really just an illustration of a house, but within this house, it has 9 components of creating a secure relationship. And so they found these 9 elements were the things that successful marriages had. And these are the things that over time in a good relationship, couples were able to develop. And so even if you were a relationship that didn't have these 9 components, you could develop these 9 components over time and create a successful relationship. So we're going to go through what these 9 components are based on their 40 years of research. So that's what I love about it. It is based on research and science.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, random. I try this, so I do this, which could be helpful. Right. And we hear a lot of that. But when it's like proven 40 years, it's research. They really study people in their lab and things. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, exactly. They watched what healthy couples were doing, and they watched what couples that ended up breaking up, what they were doing. And what they figured out was that couples that were successful had two very important elements. They had a strong friendship, and they had the ability to manage conflict with love and acceptance and grace. And so these were like two big components of the successful couples. And the couples that were not so successful didn't really have a strong friendship. They didn't spend a lot of time together. They didn't make their relationship a priority. And they didn't manage conflict well. They used something called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Have you heard of that before?
Yes, I love it. I think it makes it really clear for people. You want to just go over for those of us who don't know.
Absolutely. So the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are these 4 negative behaviors that John Gottman was able to find kind of were the most used and in higher frequency than couples that were successful. So the 4 horsemen are, number 1 is criticism. This is when you describe your partner as the problem. You're selfish. You're lazy. You don't care about our relationship, right? You're describing your partner as having this problem that ultimately is causing problems in the relationship. Rather than verbalizing what your concerns are and what your feelings are. Like, I'm really hurt that we had to cancel our date night the other night because you played basketball. Can we reschedule our date night for this weekend because I'm feeling lonely? That would be expressing your feelings rather than saying, you're so selfish, right?
Yeah.
You don't care about me. And we can
also like once you start saying that, your mind goes into a million other things. It's not just about that date night that didn't happen. It's
now you're selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a list of all the ways in which you've been selfish before, right? And you can get caught up in that negative perspective. So saying how you feel is really important. Okay. The second horseman is defensiveness. Well, if somebody's attacking you, you're going to want to defend yourself. So you say, me, what about you? You've gone out the last 3 nights and hasn't made any time for our relationship, right? So you go into this defensiveness rather than saying, you know, I can really hear that you wanted to spend time together and you're disappointed. Let's plan our other date night. No, it's not taking responsibility. It is pushing it back on the other person and not hearing their concerns. So what you want to do is hear the concern, take some responsibility for your part in this problem, and then that would be the solution to defensiveness. The third one, the third horseman, is called contempt. And this one is the most dangerous of all. And relationships they rarely survive contempt in the long term. Contempt is mocking, name-calling, belittling, humiliating, snickering, sneering, sarcasm. It's like that drippy, oozy, ugly, nasty stuff that you see in relationships that just makes you go, ooh, that didn't feel good at all.
I think, I don't know, do not know a quarter as much of it as you, but just like from what I see, does it not happen more with like manipulating and really unhealthy relationships? Not just like a couple who can't figure out a fight, but something's much deeper there.
I think you can see it in any relationship. I think at times we can all be sarcastic. We can all maybe throw in like a not so nice name out there. So I think you could see it in any relationship, but in dysfunctional, unhealthy relationships where you will see some major problems, you'll see it a lot more frequently. And it can be used as a way to manipulate your partner. So you want to be on the lookout for that. It's just not healthy for a relationship. And not only is it not healthy for your relationship, it actually is not healthy for you. It causes your immune system to break down. John Gottman studied relationships where contempt was used frequently, and those people came down with colds and viruses 3 to 4 times more in a year than couples that did not. So not only is it bad for your relationship, it's bad for your health. So it absolutely has to be eliminated. Yeah, it's bad.
I think from like society in all ways and shapes and forms.
We can all learn from that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the fourth horseman is called stonewalling. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It is when you turn into a stone wall and you just kind of like check out completely because of relationship conflict. So if you're having an argument with your partner, sometimes there's one person that becomes so overwhelmed with the emotion of the conflict, they just kind of check out and they have like an internal dialogue in their head saying, When is this argument going to stop? I've got to get out of here. This just doesn't feel good. It's always my fault. And they're talking like within themselves as a way of self-soothing, which is not by itself a bad thing. But when you combine that with what it's doing to their partner, right? Their partner's looking at them and they're just gone. So that partner's like, hello, are you in there? Talk to me. And they're getting their blood pressure up and they're getting more agitated. They're getting flooded. And so what it does to their partner is actually more damaging to the relationship. So the antidote for stonewalling is when you do feel overwhelmed by the emotion in a conflict is to say to your partner, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'd like to take a break, but you're important to me. And I want to come back to you and talk about this once I can calm down. So just stepping away, calming down and coming back is super important.
Yeah. Now, do you find that most couples have a little bit of each, or there's one that they have the most in their relationship?
Mm-hmm. Usually you'll see what we call a pursuer, which is that person saying, hey, come on out. And the other person is kind of like, leave me alone. That doesn't feel good. You'll usually see that. But at times people can become both. So even if they are the pursuer, come on, come out, come out, come out. If they're doing that for a long period of time, like years of trying to come on, come out, come out, come out, eventually they may just turn into the stonewaller and say, you know what? I'm not even going to try anymore. I'm just overwhelmed. And we call it a burnt out pursuer. And they may stop pursuing. So you might see a flip flop or a switch. That's usually a sign that things are not good in a relationship. So if you find yourself kind of getting worn out, burnt out, you're not trying as much to fix the relationship, you probably want to like assess the relationship and talk to your partner about that.
Yeah. Now you said for the two biggest things in a successful relationship is one, friendship, right? I think that is so important. Second one was how they deal with arguments or disagreements or, now, right. We just went through the 4 horsemen who are the bad of it, but what are some goods that people could do to make sure that they're really communicating in the best way?
Yeah. Well, why don't we start with friendship? Let's go there. Okay. Because this is my favorite part of every relationship is helping couples build a friendship. So what we're going to do now is
do you find that a lot of couples don't have it?
I think it's there, but it's kind of buried. It's been a long time since they've kind of lit that flame, in their relationship. And as a couples therapist, I usually start my very first session with, tell me how you met. Tell me the story of how you met. I want to know every little detail. What were you wearing? What did you notice first? What was most important? And it revives that part of their relationship where they're like, oh yeah, now we remember why we were good friends to begin with. It's so important.
Why did you get married to start off with? Exactly.
And when you can bring a couple back there and they remember why they fell in love in the first place, it does revive their friendship. And then we kind of build on that. And we start with, so number one, love maps. So a love map is the number one component of the Sound Relationship House and the first piece of building a friendship in your relationship. So a love map is how well known you feel by your partner. Do they know your internal world? Do they ask you questions about your hopes, your dreams, your likes, your dislikes? And do they remember the answers? This is the foundation, is asking questions. Because in relationships, we change and we grow all the time. And so it's important to renew this love map. Spend time with your partner, even if it's 15 minutes a day, asking some questions. How was your day? What was most important about your day to you? What were you most concerned about? How do you want to relax on the weekend? What are some things that we can do to make our weekend better together? Just questions and be curious all the time. And a lot of times couples are like, I don't know how to do this, and I'm like, well, I've got some great ideas. So they have these wonderful card decks that you can purchase, and or there's plenty of love map questions available free on the internet. There's also a really cool, there's an article, I don't know if you saw it, the 36 questions to find out if you and your partner are a good match.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah, okay, I knew you'd know about that, from the New York Times, and I love that one too. So there's plenty.
Yeah, they have really good questions there. I think any questions, like literally even you could just like Google like deep questions to ask your partner or stuff like that, or funny questions if you're in the mood of sometimes something like, and the more you do it, it like trains your brain to think like that and really make you come by yourself, and you won't need those anymore. But those are great tools.
Yeah. So that would be love maps, is like those kind of questions and open-ended questions, right? Like, where do you see us in 5 years? Or, where do you want to retire to? And, you start to get comfortable asking these questions. And then when your partner starts to give you, really genuine, deep answers, you're also building trust in the relationship because you're trusting your partner with something that's precious to you, which is your dreams, your goals, your visions. Yeah. Okay. So number 2, fondness and admiration. So in a relationship, it's so important to express how much you appreciate your partner. In the beginning, we do this all the time, right? I just love how sweet you are. And I just love how athletic you are, right? And we tell them all the time what we appreciate about them. But over time in relationships, right, you have conflict, we have stress, and maybe we hold on to the things that we think we, might want to say to our partner. We don't say them because maybe we're angry with them about something that happened last night. Or maybe we're so stressed out, we're just like, it's in the back of our mind, but we don't verbalize it. So the second component is fondness and admiration. And this is, do you verbalize to your partner how much you appreciate them? Not just say like, thank you for throwing the garbage out, but like, I appreciate a quality that you have, your kindness, your friendship, your strength. You're appreciating the quality that they have, and then sharing a little bit like a memory or a story or something that they've done recently that exhibited that quality and letting them know. And I think when we do this in session with couples, like people really are touched emotionally, and you can see some tears because they're like, I haven't heard that in so long. I didn't even know that was something you appreciated about me. I thought that was something that annoyed you. Yeah. Right? And then they, no, I appreciate that. And so it's a very, very touching thing to see couples really share, like, this is why we're together. This is why I love you. Because a lot of times they're like, sometimes I don't even think you like me because all we do is argue. And it's hard, so it's nice to hear that there's those qualities that they still have that people appreciate, that your partner appreciates. So that's number 2.
Okay.
So number 3 is turning towards. And this one was a big lesson for me because I'm very easily distracted. So it's like squirrel and I'm gone, So for turning towards in a relationship, it's important to let your partner know you see them, you hear them, you acknowledge their presence, you acknowledge their desires. So when they put out a bid for connection to you, and it could be verbal or not verbal, it could be a smile, it could be a hug, it could be a question like, do you have some time to talk with me? That's a bid for connection. They're looking for something from you. When you turn towards your partner, you're responding enthusiastically. I see you. I hear you. Yes, I want to be engaged with you right now, even if it's something very, very tiny. This is a good example. We drive in the car, long road trips all the time. And my husband loves to point out athletic fields. He loves baseball. So wherever we're going, he's like, oh, look, there's Wrigley Field. Oh, look, there's a community ballpark. And, and I'm in the car and I'm like, okay, I've seen 100 ballparks at this point, right? It's a long road trip. And I realized I wasn't turning towards and I wasn't kind of acknowledging. And, that's a small example. And so now I always acknowledge, oh yeah, look at that beautiful ball field, but over time, if you're not acknowledging and turning towards, your partner can feel like what they're sharing is not important. They can feel like you're not interested in them and they may stop sharing. So now we start to see the breakdown of communication. If you're not asking me questions, I really don't feel like you like me as a person. And now you're not even responding when I put out a bid. What's happening to our friendship? It's deteriorating.
Yeah.
So making sure that you're letting your partner know, even if it's something silly like a ball field, I see you, I hear you, you're important to me. Now, here's the one thing. It doesn't mean you always have to say yes. So if your partner's asking for something, right, you don't always have to say yes. You could say no and still turn towards. You could say, I know you really want to go out to dinner tonight, but finances are kind of low. I think we should probably stay in. Maybe we can plan something for next week. That's saying no or not right now, but still turning towards. You're acknowledging. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think it could go even more than that. Like, you don't even have to say, could we go next week? It's just how you say your no, that they don't feel that you're attacking them, that you don't like them, that you don't care about them, but just the answer is no. Exactly.
Right. I love you. I care about you, but the answer is no, instead of just shutting them out or even ignoring them. Yeah. So that's the basis of a friendship. So the next component is called the positive perspective. And I think you touched on this earlier. You can be in the positive perspective or the negative perspective in your relationship. And it really is, how do I see my partner in that big picture? Do I see them as selfish? Do I see them as not caring, or do I see them as someone who is not a friend to me? If you find that you're starting to notice these thoughts in your head and you're starting to see like small things in your relationship as negative that really aren't a big deal, but you see them as a big deal, you're probably in the negative perspective. And that means you definitely want to look at your friendship, your love maps, your fondness and admiration, and your turning towards, and do a little bit of work in that area, because that will affect your positive perspective.
That's for sure. So you have to start over there.
Right. You start all over again and you say, let me look at my love maps and see if we could do a better job here. Let me see if I can turn towards my partner more. Let me see if I can share some admiration with my partner and see if that starts to get me more in a positive frame of mind. Because when you're in the negative perspective, it builds on itself exponentially. And it grows and grows and grows if you're in a negative space. And you even start to see things that are positive in your relationship as negative when you're in a negative space.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And then your partner can never do anything right because whatever they're doing is just going to be wrong. So
yeah, I remember a couple that shared with me once. He complimented her on her outfit. You look so beautiful in that outfit. Don't say that. You're just saying that because you picked it out. And it was like, but he gave you a compliment, but she was in a negative space, right? And so she couldn't hear that compliment. And now granted, there were other issues going on, but she couldn't hear it because she's in a negative space. So that's just like, wow, that was a positive thing, but taken as a negative thing, I must be in the negative frame of mind, in the negative sentiment. I have some work to do, or we have some work to do on the friendship of our relationship.
Yeah, I like how these things are so clear and like pinpoint. Like, I'm seeing the positive and the negative. That means there's a much bigger problem going on here. You could really
That's right.
find them when they're small, when they're little, before they get into these really big problems in your marriage. So that way they just always stay on the right track.
And I love how they're so practical because, you know, you can see it, now you can identify it, and then there's specific things that you can do to correct it, which I really like. I like practical things. I don't like the idea that marriages are broken and nobody really knows how to fix them. And there's lots of ideas out there, and it's kind of very vague, and it's terrifying. If it's your marriage, it's terrifying to not know how to fix it.
Yeah. But if you know, like love maps, ask questions, turn towards, or things like that, then it's like, now I know what to do.
Exactly. Now I know how to fix it. And that gives a sense of control back, and a sense of, you know, feeling like you have some power in the relationship and you can fix this. And one of you can start fixing it. Both of you don't even have to be doing it. One of you can start working on it. So this is very powerful.
Yeah.
All right. So number 5, managing conflict. So what they learned in their research about managing conflict was that couples that were successful had a 5-to-1 ratio of positivity to negativity, even when they were having conflict. So think about having 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction, even when you're having an argument. A lot of people are like, how do you do that? How do you have a fight and still be positive? And I'm like, well, you can, because even just saying I'm sorry is a positive interaction.
Yeah.
Or saying, could you say that to me in a different way because that made me feel defensive? That's still positive. Or we're in this together, we'll figure it out, even though we don't agree. That's still positive. So there's lots of ways that you can still let your partner know, I love you, I care about you. And this is a big one. This fight does not mean the end of our relationship.
Oh,
huge, right? And we're in it together.
Exactly. We're in this together, right? We're going to figure this out. We disagree on it, but it's just disagreement. We'll work through this and we'll come out of this stronger. And
that's right. Better. But people don't communicate that in the moment. A lot of times there's a big fight, maybe some nasty things are said, and then they take their space.
Yeah.
And they're left wondering, is this the end of our relationship? Does my partner even like me? How are we going to get through this? I feel so alone. We're not even talking about it. How long is this silence going to last? I mean, there's so many things, when really there's simple ways to fix that. You know, you could say to your partner, we're in this together, but I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. Can we just take a break? And I'm going to come back to you in a little while so we can try again. Wow. Could you imagine having an argument where you feel like, okay, we're going to be okay. My partner's going to come back to me and we're going to try this again when we're calm. It's just such a sense of relief to be able to do that.
It also doesn't I sometimes find that because they're in this space, they're both like trying to get like, just trying to calm down. They're separate from each other. And like, they're thinking, hey, was this the end of the relationship? They're just dreaming and thinking of things that are creating it and making it way worse than it has to be, versus like don't make it worse. Just pause. We're coming together back soon.
And doing something soothing during that time, like calm yourself. Don't just think about the relationship, but maybe exercise or read a book or watch a funny movie or go for a walk or go get a coffee, just something that soothes you and calms you. And then when you come back to your partner, you're calm. You're not really upset because now you've been spinning around. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Ready for number 6?
We are.
Okay. So number 6 is called Making Life's Dreams Come True. So this one's kind of fun. This is where partners share with each other once they've learned how to manage conflict and they've built their friendship. Now they kind of get to this place where they feel safe enough to share with their partner their dreams and their goals and the things that they want to accomplish in life. And they open up to their partner and they share with them all of these deep wishes and dreams that maybe they've never shared before. Maybe they didn't even know they had these dreams before. But now the relationship is so safe that it feels like it's okay to share that with my partner, and they're not going to use it against me. They're not going to hurt me. They're actually going to listen. And maybe, just maybe, they may want to join me in my dream. Maybe they want to be a part of it, or maybe they want to support me in that dream in some way. And a lot of times I think about, people who run marathons. I don't run, so that's not me. But people who run marathons, I admire them so much. And I love to see when their family supports them in training, maybe runs with them, or maybe the husband, watches the kids so that the wife who's running the marathon can train and because it takes a lot of time to do that kind of training. So, and then maybe they all travel together to the marathon and they're all there together. So being able to support your partner in their dream, either along the way or joining in their dream, is something that successful couples, this is a strength for them. So you can always point out a successful couple if you see them really supporting each other in their dreams and their goals. You know that that's a couple that has strength.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it could be in small things and in big things. You don't have to wait for running a marathon. Mm-hmm. It could be even small things like, they're having an important business meeting and you're supporting them in that, or whatever else.
It could be anything. Maybe they want to start going back to the gym again after a long time away from working out, or they want to start, a new business and they're going to do DIY stuff from home and sell it online. And maybe you help them with getting their online website, their online shop up. It could be
buy supplies for them. Yeah. Like you said, watching kids, anything
That's right. Anything. And this is, so important in a relationship. I don't think that people recognize how important it is to feel like your dreams and how you want to live your life is supported by your partner.
Yeah.
Okay. So
one more question on this. How much do you think this falls under also of asking them questions and being curious about it? Is that more like the friendship part, or does that also support them in their dreams?
I think it all comes together. If you don't know as a couple how to sit and talk and explore and ask questions and learn about each other, you're never going to get think of it like a ladder. If you don't start with something like, what's your favorite color? How do you get to the next step, which says, if, red is your favorite color, then that explains why you really like that red sweater that I got you for Christmas. Right. And then, and then the next one is how do you see us celebrating, Christmases once we have children? And then, once we have children, do you think once they have children, where will we live? And then, so you're climbing this ladder that starts with what's your favorite color? So it's all tied together because it's built on trust. So, what's your favorite color? And if it's I don't really have a favorite color, you kind of get shut down. You're not going to ask the next questions. 10 questions are now off the table because that one question got shut down. So I see them as all connected, and you're building a life together is what's happening. And even if it's in your minds and in your hearts, you're building a whole life together, and you're asking yourself, do our lives mesh? Do they come together? Do we share? And this is the next one, creating shared meaning. Do we share what a meaningful life for us looks like? Are we on the same path together? And then this is the way that you create that, is you ask questions. You don't wait till you're at the end of, your relationship, later years. And then you look back and you say, gosh, we should have done a better job. You're building it all along by asking questions, creating rituals of connection, the way you want to celebrate holidays, the way you want to raise your children, the kind of home you want to have, where you want to live. All of those questions and conversations are building a life together. And then, you live out your life through rituals of connection and creating meaning in your life together. So it's an understanding that you have that starts with, what's your favorite color? It all comes back to that. So that's the next one, was creating shared meaning. Do we feel like our lives mesh well together and that we're on the same path? Even today, maybe you're starting a new relationship and you're only together a month, but do you envision that your life together will fit well over time? And you ask questions about what things mean to people. What does it mean to have a home? What does it mean to show appreciation to one another? How do we create that life together? What does that look like to you? So that's creating shared meaning. And that's also another super strength of couples that are successful. They're able to have this vision and this meaning in their life that's so strong that they get through the day-to-day struggles not very easily. It's probably not the best. It's never easy, but easier. Easier. Because they know the big picture is we're going to get through this because we have this vision of our life together. So the day-to-day struggles, they're not so challenging, or as challenging maybe as maybe other couples go through that don't have that understanding that their lives mesh well together.
Yeah. You don't feel alone. Cool. You have that person. Yeah.
So it's so cool. All right. Last two, you're going to love these. So these are the walls of the house that hold the whole house up, right? So we've got all of these levels, and then we've got the walls, and the walls are trust and commitment. Without trust and commitment, the house doesn't
have nothing.
Exactly. So knowing that your partner is going to be there for you in the good and in the bad, when you fall down at your worst, knowing they're going to be there for you is that commitment. Right. My partner is here with me. They don't choose anybody else but me. And not only do I know it, but I feel it, and they say it to me again and again and again. And they show me with their actions that they choose me above everything else. And that's so important, is that commitment, because you make that commitment that first day, and nobody ever doubts that they'll have that commitment the whole relationship. But then as time goes on, our behaviors and our actions show our partner whether or not they're choosing us again and again and again.
Actually work's more important, or I don't have time for you, right?
I don't have time for you. Or, going here this day is better than spending the day with you. So I'm going to choose hanging out with this person, or going to work, or whatever else I'm going to do over being with you when you're going through a rough time. I'm going to leave you alone. And that's not commitment, right? You want to show that you are committed and I'm here for you, even when things are bad. For you or for us, I'm still here. I don't choose anyone else or anything else or any place else. I choose you. And you feel that, and you know it by the actions and the choices every single day in your relationship. So commitment is very important.
And trust.
And trust, our last one, trust. Can I trust you? Are your actions, are you honest? Are you ethical? Do your actions show me that you take accountability and responsibility? And can I trust you with my heart? Can I be vulnerable with you and trust that you're going to take care of my heart and not use that in a way that would be detrimental to our relationship? So just knowing that I can trust you even with the most vulnerable parts of me is very important. Will you catch me if I fall, is what people say, right? If I'm falling, will you be there to catch me? Can I trust you to catch me? And without trust and commitment, the whole house falls apart.
Yeah. So why do they put them in the end instead of in the beginning?
Yeah, I think it's just the way that it lays out. That's a good question. I think they use it as it's the walls that keeps everything else. But a foundation of a good relationship is building that friendship. Then you have the conflict, and then you have the shared meaning. And then those walls, without them, there is no house.
Right.
So they're at the end, but I think it's meant to be like, you can't have it without these things.
Yeah.
And you build.
And there's no relationship without it.
That's right. And you build trust and commitment over time too. Yeah. But it's the Sound Relationship House. This is a great little example of all the ways in which you can, make sure that your relationship stays on track and you don't get distracted. Like we talked about in the beginning, how we all started this conversation was, what's the biggest problem couples face is disconnection.
Yeah. And when you follow this, then you won't have any of that.
That's right.
Now, how has this work affected your own marriage?
Oh my gosh. Before I knew about this Gottman method, it had to be about 14 years ago. I was only married. Gosh, I'm married 17 years now. So only about 3 or 4 years. We had 2 small children, and we were doing well, but we weren't doing bad. But once I read the book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, and that's by John Gottman. I read that book and I actually met the Gottmans at a conference and I was learning about this method of therapy. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I'm doing wrong. There's so many things I'm doing wrong. There's so many things I could do better. For me, luckily, we were just newly married and we were still like in a, the honeymoon phase, like a really good place. But as our children, we had 2 small children, it could have gotten off the tracks. I think knowing about this and implementing every single one of these tools every single day, because you have to work on your marriage every single day, I think has kept us on track. And every day I work on my fondness and admiration, and I make sure that I tell my partner, my husband, how I feel about him. And we just did love maps the other day. And, we were talking about retirement and where we want to live and where the kids going to live. And, will we live near this one or will we live near that one? So creating that shared meaning. Rituals of connection is very important to us. We're always creating new ways. We have, last night we had board game night with the kids. And so we make sure we have a ritual of connection around family time. So, but I know in my head, right? Like I can see it, like I'm going through the checklist of the Sound Relationship House, right? I'm making sure my house is in order. Now, does that mean we don't have conflict? Absolutely, we have conflict, but we don't walk away and not talk for days. We make sure we come back, and we have to have that 5-to-1 ratio. Or, you're not sitting there counting when you're in an argument, but you start to know how to have conflict where it still feels okay and feels safe, and it's not tearing apart your relationship, because that builds on itself too. Every negative conflict you have over time builds and builds and builds. So you want to make sure that they feel good when you're resolving them. So I think it's changed my life and just my relationship with everyone, because you can use this not just in your relationship, right? You can use this with anyone in your life, because it's just excellent skills to have.
That's for sure. Yeah. And I like how you took full responsibility for it. You're not like, oh, I just don't like this book because my marriage is good. But no, you're like, my marriage is good and I want to make it even better. I'm going to do everything on here. Guys, read the book and do the same. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you read that first chapter and you're like, oh no, right? That's me. Oh no, I got to do better. But there's hope is what, you read the first chapter and you get a little scared, but then there's hope because those things can be corrected. It's just changing your behaviors right away and starting to recognize your part and then doing something different. So you can make a difference. And none of us are innocent. None of us are innocent. We all use 4 horsemen. Everyone has conflict in relationships. This just teaches you how to manage it better. And that's so important. And it's nice to have a roadmap and instructions and practical tools. It's so practical. Like you said, I think just that gives you hope. It's not like, I don't know what to do. Follow these things and just watch change happen.
Exactly. It's so good to have the tools, and change does happen pretty quickly when you start to use it. It's amazing how quickly it works.
Okay, so for our final question, one that I ask everyone, I think I'm going to change the words a little bit for you. How do you describe an extraordinary relationship without using these 3 words? Trust, friendship, and connection.
Okay, an extraordinary relationship. Trust, friendship, and connection. Can't use those 3. Gosh, those are my favorite 3 words. You're killing me. An extraordinary relationship to me would be a couple when you see them across the room and you can feel the energy between them and they are just so engaged with each other. It's almost like nobody else is in the room, and you can just feel that they have been working on their relationship. You know that they are in a secure bond with one another because there is this energy around them that nothing else around them matters. And I always remember, I love to people watch. And so I always people watch.
Like me.
I love it. I love what you do. This is amazing. So I love watching couples and watching people. I've always been that way. And so when I look at a couple, I'm looking for, what's going on there? Are they looking around the room? Are they looking at each other? And you can feel the energy when a couple is connected. Can't use connected, when they are in this safe space, this bond with each other. And that's what people are drawn to, is look at the confidence that they have in each other and in their relationship. That's what everybody wants. And so for me, it's something you can feel when you're around another couple. You can feel their positive energy, and people want to be around people like that, want to be around couples like that, because they want that for themselves. That secure bond. It feels good to other people around them, even not just to them. So it has this energy that kind of expands.
Oh yeah, you could literally, like you said, see it across the room.
You can. And it's wonderful because they share that energy with everyone around them. And other people want to kind of be more like them. And that's what we need is more couples that have a safe, secure bond in this world, right? Because then that expands and other people get to experience that too. Yeah. Did I do good?
I love that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Carole. This was amazing.
Great. Really this was so much fun. I really appreciate you having me. We were finally able to do it.
Yes.
That's all for this episode of Life Picks Relationships, and we have a huge favor to ask of you that will not only support this show, but also give others what they need to take their marriage to the next level. We're striving to have 1 million downloads per episode by December 31st, 2025, so please share it with your family and friends so they can turn their relationship into an extraordinary one.